Okay, good morning, guys. Let me start with the design procedure. And I'm going to start where I had stopped yesterday. A steel beam may fail by different ways, mainly by the following four ways. One is lateral torsional buckling, flange local buckling of web, and also failure after reaching full plastic moment capacity. See, what we normally do is, in case of laterally unsupported beams, so we are going to deal with the first three cases, A, B, and C. In case of laterally supported beams, B, C, and D, we are going to deal with. Okay, and finding out the moment capacity when a beam is not laterally supported, that is finding out the bending strength or moment capacity by taking lateral torsional buckling into account is not in your syllabus this time. It is only a procedure we are going to go through here. And what we have is failure after reaching full plastic moment capacity. Okay, that is in your syllabus. Of course, that is not difficult when compared to lateral torsional buckling. And we are going to cover that, and we are going to solve design problems. So here, important aspects to be considered in a beam design are moment, shear, and deflection. So that is same as concrete beam. In addition to that, in case of design of steel beams, we are going to take into account crippling and buckling. That is crippling of web and buckling of web. So I'm going to tell you what is crippling and what is buckling very soon. So if it is not laterally supported, as I said, it is lateral torsional buckling. Here, for a laterally supported beam, the design bending strength of a beam is governed by the yield stress, while for a laterally unsupported beam, the lateral torsional buckling controls the design. Okay, 1 second. So when it comes to the failure, this is local buckling of flange. So this is not going to happen in case of compact or plastic section. So this kind of local buckling of flange is going to happen in case of sections wherein the section is semi-compact or slender. So another type of failure of web is buckling of web. That is, the web may buckle in 4 different ways. So that is, the top portion is straight and it is going to take the shape of a single curvature. Here in the second figure, the whole height is going to take the shape of a single curvature. Then it is double curvature. And the next one is only the middle part, certain portion in the middle height of the web is going to take a single curvature. And whenever it buckles like this, we call it as buckling of web, and that is considered as a failure of the beam section. Okay. Then what is web crippling, or another name is web yielding? So when we design, we are going to check for these 2 cases, for web buckling and web crippling. So what is web crippling? So web crippling happens at the point of load concentration. In other words, at the points of concentrated loads. So if you are applying concentrated loads from the top, so top portion of the web is going to cripple. Okay, locally it is going to fail, that is called web crippling. And when you go to this support, so there is going to be vertical reactions, taking all the loads coming from the beam itself. So because of the concentration of the stress at the support, then the web may fail even at the bottom portion. So this reaction itself is a concentrated load. Okay, and the web may cripple this way also. So normally the web crippling happens at the points of concentrated load. Okay, so let us take an example. This is not a design problem, just I'm going to explain what is the plastic section, what is an elastic section, and also what is shape factor. Okay, and how to find out all those things. So this problem goes like this: calculate the section modulus. That is, when I say simply section modulus, it is always elastic section modulus. There is another one, is called plastic section modulus, and also shape factor for the following rectangular section. See, if you look here, this is the cross section of a beam. When you keep loading the beam, so the first thing is at the extreme fiber, which is farthest from the neutral axis, is going to approach yield stress first. Okay, then the variation of the stress across this section is going to be a triangle like this. If you keep loading further, then there are interior fibers which are going to be stressed and which are going to reach a Fy value. Once the full sectional moment capacity is reached, the section looks as in figure C. Okay, and the section cannot take any further load. So once this kind of stress variation is achieved or reached, then there is going to be a plastic hinge formed at that point. Okay, so once the plastic hinge is formed, then that particular section may buckle, or it may rotate. Rotate in the sense it just keeps moving or keeps bending. Okay, so that means if it rotates, means that section has rotational capacity, and that kind of section is called as a plastic section. If the entire section reaches its full plastic moment capacity, that means the stresses in all the fibers reach Fy values, and then the plastic hinge has formed. And if the plastic hinge cannot rotate, instead it buckles sideways, then that section is called a compact section. Okay, so compact, and plastic section, we are going to make use of the same formula in the code book for the design purpose. So the problem says find out the elastic section modulus, or simply the section modulus, then plastic section modulus, and the shape factor. So to start with, let us find out the elastic section modulus. Okay, so elastic section modulus we are going to represent by ZE. Then you can call ZEZ. When I say ZEZ, it is the elastic section modulus about the ZZ axis. It used to be XX axis before. Now it is ZZ axis as per the code IS 800. So what is ZE value? Let us take this formula M by I equal to F by Y. So you have studied this formula in strength of materials in some subject. So from this equation, M equal to, by cross multiplying, I by Y multiplied by F. So what is Y value? So Y value is the distance of any fiber from the neutral axis. Okay, 1 second. So if we consider a fiber here that is at this level in this section, so this is Y value. Okay, so what is the maximum value y can attain? Maximum value y can attain in a symmetry section is going to be this much, that is d by 2. Even on this side, it is d by 2. Okay. So when we take y equal to y max, that is equal to d by 2, and substitute the value of d by 2 in place of y, and I is the moment of inertia of this section, which is b dq by 12, and in place of f, we are going to substitute the value of fy. Then the section will have a moment capacity given by this formula. So m becomes my. Then by substituting the values, we are going to get fy multiplied by ze. What is ze? Ze is the section modulus or elastic section modulus. So that is given by I by y max. Okay. So I'm going to call this as equation 1. Then let us find out what is the moment of resistance of this section, my. So if you look here, 1 second please. If you look at this triangular stress variation, so what is the moment of resistance of this section? That is compressive force multiplied by the lever arm, or the tensile force multiplied by the lever arm. So whether you take compressive force or tensile force, the magnitude wise, they should be the same. So it has to maintain the force equilibrium in the horizontal direction. Then what is the lever arm? See, if I take this force F, this force F is the resultant of the force acting above the neutral axis. Okay, that is acting at a distance of 2/3 of d from the zero edge of this triangle, or 1/3 of d, 1/3 of not d by 2 from the top edge. Similarly, from zero edge, it is 2/3 of d by 2. That is this distance. So when you find out the total distance which serves as the lever arm, that is going to be equal to 2/3 of d. Okay. So here on the top, F is the compressive force. At the bottom, the same F is the tensile force. So how do you calculate? Half into Fy into d by 2. That is the area of the triangle multiplied by the width of the beam is the total magnitude of the force, and that is capital F. Okay. So then what is the moment of resistance of this section? Moment of resistance of this section is given by force multiplied by the lever arm. So here I have written force multiplied by the lever arm. So what is the force? You take compression or tension zone. They are one and the same. That is, as I said just now, area of this triangle multiplied by this width. That means the stress variation is going to be there all across this section. So that is half into Fy multiplied by d by 2 multiplied by b. That is the force, capital F. Lever arm is 2/3 of d. So I'm going to call this as equation 2. So I equate equation 1 and equation 2. If I equate that, elastic section modulus I'm going to get, or simply the section modulus I'm going to get, is equal to BD square by 6. Okay. So next, coming to the plastic section modulus. Same here. So I'm going to call this I by Y max as ZP multiplied by Fy. Okay, not ZE, ZP. Why I'm going to tell you. Here, what is the plastic moment of resistance of this section? that is MP value, that is given by FP divided by the lever arm. That is this force FP, okay, or this force FP, they are one and the same. So FP equal to Fy, area of this rectangle. Fy multiplied by d by 2 is the area of this rectangle, and that rectangular stress variation is going to be there for the entire width of B of the beam. So multiplied by B is going to be the total force, compressive force or tensile force. Okay, that is represented by Fp. Then the moment of resistance is given by this force multiplied by the lever arm. So there are two forces Fp, equal and opposite, separated by a distance d by 2. So that is the moment of resistance of the section. Here I have written Bd by 2 multiplied by Fy multiplied by d by 2. That is the lever arm. Okay. So now I am going to equate equation 1 and equation 2. By equating equation 1 and equation 2, I am going to get the plastic section modulus equal to Bd square by 4. So as far as the elastic section modulus is concerned, it is Bd square by 6. And the plastic section modulus is Bd square by 4. Okay. So I have written a note. Plastic section modulus can be calculated by adding the moments of areas about the axis, which divides the area into two equal parts. This axis is called the plastic neutral axis. So I am going to solve the next problem next, and it will be more clear to you about this note. So now I calculated the plastic section modulus, and also I calculated the elastic section modulus, which is Zd. Then the ratio of plastic section modulus to the elastic section modulus is called the shape factor S. Okay. So S equal to Zp divided by Zd. Take the values of Zp and Zd, substitute, and we get S equal to 1.50. That is the shape factor for a rectangular section. That is a constant value. So is this efficient? No, I don't think it is efficient. Okay. An efficient section is one wherein the shape factor is closest to 1. If it is beyond 1, say additional 10%, 20%, yeah, it is an efficient. If it becomes 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, then the section is not efficient at all. Okay, I repeat, an efficient section is one wherein the shape factor is closest to 1. See, for example, for a rectangle, you take 1.50. So if you take any I section, it will be around 1.1, 1.1, 1.09, 1.11, 1.15, like that. Because an I section is an efficient section when compared to a rectangular section. Next, same, this is a T section. Calculate the shape factor for the following T section. We know what is a shape factor. Shape factor is the ratio of the plastic section modulus to the value of elastic section modulus. Okay. So to find out this shape factor, first thing you need to do is you need to find out what is Zd value and also Zp value. Then Zp by Zd will be the shape factor. To start with, let us go with Ze value, that is to find out the elastic section modulus. To find out the elastic section modulus, the first thing you need to do is find out the moment of inertia of this section. Moment of inertia about the neutral axis of this T section. Okay. And the first step is find out where exactly the neutral axis is located. So find out where exactly the neutral axis is located. Find out the moment of inertia of that section about that neutral axis. Okay. Get the distance of the furthest fiber from the neutral axis. So I divided by that furthest distance will give you the elastic section modulus or simply the section modulus. Okay. So first let us find out what is y bar. That is the location of the centroid of this T section from the bottom. We are taking the bottom line as the reference line. That is this line, bottom line, reference to find out the location of the centroid. So y bar is given by 180 multiplied by 10 area multiplied by the distance of the centroid of this 180 by 10 from the bottom reference line, which is given by total height minus of 10 by 2, because the centroid of that component area rectangle is located here. Okay, that's why the distance is 250 minus of t by 2, that is 10 by 2. Plus, there is one more area here. That is the stem part of the T section or the web part of the T section. So what is that height? That is 240 millimeter. 10 by 240 is the area. So where exactly the location of the centroid of this component area? This is at a distance of this height by 2, that is 240 by 2 from the bottom reference line. So area is, here I have written 10 multiplied by 240 multiplied by the distance of the centroid from the bottom. Okay, that is given by 250 minus 10 will give you this height divided by 2 will give you the location of the centroid of this web portion of the T section and measure that distance, perpendicular distance, which is 250 minus 10 by 2, that is equal to 120 millimeter. So divided by total area of cross section of the T section. Okay, that is this 180 plus 10 plus 10 multiplied by 240. So after doing calculation, we get y bar equal to 173.57 millimeter. That is the location of the centroid of this T section measured from the bottom reference line. So I'm going to call that distance as y bar, which is 173.57 millimeter. So once that is done, the next step we are going to do is to find out the moment of inertia of the whole section about its centroidal axis. Okay, so we know where exactly the centroidal axis is located, which is at a distance of 173.57 millimeter from the bottom. Let us find out IZZ value. So IZZ value about the whole section, about the x-axis, about the ZZ axis is given by moment of inertia of this top flange about its own centroid plus area multiplied by the square of the perpendicular distance. That is going to give you the moment of inertia of this section, that is the top flange section about the ZZ axis, plus moment of inertia of this rectangular stem about its own centroidal axis plus area of this stem multiplied by square of the perpendicular distance between the main centroidal axis and the centroidal axis of the component area, that is the stem. So if you look here, moment of inertia of this rectangular section about the ZZ axis is given by 180 multiplied by 10 Q by 12, BDQ by 12 formula we are using for this. So the width is 180 multiplied by 10 cube by 12, that's what I have written, plus apply parallel axis theorem. So that is 180 by 10 square of the perpendicular distance between the main axis and the individual centroidal axis. That is given by, this side is 76.43 minus of 5 will give you the distance from here to here. Okay, so AH square, you need to square it. Okay, and this part gives the moment of inertia of the top flange about the neutral axis of the section. Similarly, find out the moment of inertia of this stem part or the web part of the T section and add that number to this to get the total moment of inertia of the section about its own centroidal axis. So then what is this? That is, moment of inertia of this section about its own centroidal axis is given by BD cube by 12. That is 10 multiplied by 240 is the height of this stem, 240 cube by 12. Okay. Plus apply the parallaxis theorem, that is AH square, where A is the area of this web multiplied by H is the perpendicular distance between the main centroidal axis, main horizontal centroidal axis, and again the horizontal centroidal axis of the stem area. That is given by 173.57 minus 173.57 minus 120. 120 is the distance of the centroid of this area from the bottom, and square it. So once you have this, add those numbers. Finally, you get the moment of inertia of the section about its own centroidal axis. Okay. Then what is Y max? That is the distance of the farthest fiber from the neutral axis. See, if you look here, total height of this T section is 250 millimeter. So the distance of the neutral axis, that is the main neutral axis, from the bottom is 173.57. And the remaining height is 76.43. So on the top, we have compression fibers, if it is a simply supported beam. And at the bottom, we have tension fibers. See, what is the distance of the farthest fiber you need to take? So if you take 76.43, so distance of the farthest fiber in the compression zone is 76.43. And distance of the farthest fiber in the tension zone is 173.57 millimeter from the neutral axis. So out of these two, which is greater? That is 173.57 millimeter. That is the distance of the farthest fiber from the neutral axis, and that value should be considered. So that's why I have written Y max equal to 173.57. So once we have it, elastic section modulus or simply section modulus is given by IZZ divided by Y max. So after calculating, we got some value, that is the section modulus or the elastic section modulus of the section. Okay. Now, what is plastic section modulus? See, plastic section modulus is the one basically which divides the area into two equal parts so as to maintain force equilibrium, okay, wherein all the fibers, both in tension and compression zones, are subjected to an equal stress of Fy. Okay, so we'll find out what is plastic section modulus. So we can do it in two methods. Method one is a little bit difficult. Method two is really straightforward. Very simple. Within few lines you can finish it. So by method one, by referring to figure C here, so what I do is I'm going to equate total compression to total tension. Okay. So if I take the total compression for a plastic section, again all fibers are subjected to its complete stress, Fy value, yield stress value. Even in the tension zone, same. So, total compressive force is given by Fy, that is a yield stress or yield strength of the material multiplied by the area AC, that is the area of compression zone. That should be equated to Fy multiplied by the area of the section in the tension zone. Is it clear to you? So, for force equilibrium, we have to equate those two, C equal to T. Once I equated, Fy get cancelled, AC equal to AT. What it means? What it means is, the plastic neutral axis cuts the section in such a way that it divides the area into two equal parts. Compression area and tension area are equal. Okay? Because all the fibers are subjected to Fy stress, whether it is compressive fibers or tensile fibers. So we have to maintain force equilibrium. For force equilibrium, we equate. Finally, we'll end up getting the compression area equal to tension area. Okay, out of the total area, that is possible only if the neutral axis divides the area into two equal parts. Okay, so after calculation, I'm going to tell you about the calculation. So this is the plastic neutral axis. That is, this line is the plastic neutral axis. Okay, this is the one that divides the area into two equal parts. Look here, elastic neutral axis is different from the plastic neutral axis. So in case of a symmetric section like rectangular section, there elastic neutral axis and plastic neutral axis are coinciding. That's why you could not make out. But in this case, you realize the elastic neutral axis is completely different from the plastic neutral axis. So as you keep loading, if the extreme fiber reaches Fy value, then whatever the axis will be at the level of elastic neutral axis. Okay. Then if you keep loading the section further, interior fibers get stressed to Fy values, as I explained yesterday. So as a result, the neutral axis gets shifted up or down, depending on the nature of the area. Okay, finally, when all the fibers have reached their yield stress, that axis will stand at the place where it divides the area into two equal parts. And that axis is called the plastic neutral axis. Again, neutral axis shifts, remember. Okay, it keeps moving. Somewhere it stops after dividing the area into two equal parts. So that axis is called the plastic neutral axis. In case of rectangular section, you don't see the difference because the neutral axis, because of symmetry, the neutral axis does not get shifted. Plastic neutral axis stands where the elastic neutral axis is. Is it clear to you? So going further, here, total area is 4,200 millimeters square of the section. How did we get the total area? Look here. This is the total area of the section. That is the total area of this T section. That is equal to 4,200 millimeters square. Okay. That is 4,200 millimeters square. So plastic neutral axis divides the area into two equal parts. So compression zone area will be equal to tension zone area, which is equal to 4,200 by 2, that is equal to 2,100 millimeters square. Okay, here the axis which cuts the area into two equal parts is called the plastic neutral axis. I told you about this. Then we need to find out where exactly it is located, and also we need to find out what is the moment of resistance MP of the section, that is given by total compression or total tension multiplied by the lever arm. So what is the lever arm? YC plus YT is the lever arm. What is YC and what is YT? So if this is the plastic neutral axis, look here, this is the plastic neutral axis. Okay, and the centroid or the center of gravity of the compression force from this plastic neutral axis is YC, and the center of gravity of the tensile force is YT. So first thing we need to do is find out YC and YT, add those two things, and that becomes the lever arm, and that compression force multiplied by the lever arm or the tensile force multiplied by the lever arm will give you the plastic moment capacity of the section. Is it clear to you? So now let us find out what is the value of YC and what is the value of YT. So you need to practice it, guys, otherwise you don't get it. So to calculate YT value, first let us find out where exactly the axis cuts the area. So depth of extreme tension fiber from the plastic neutral axis is given by AT divided by thickness of the web. So that is half the area, that is 2000 millimeters square, should be equated to this total depth, which we don't know yet, multiplied by the width. 10 multiplied by this distance should be equated to 2100 millimeters square. Okay. After doing that, we got this height equal to 210 millimeter. That is the depth of the plastic neutral axis from the bottom, or that is the location of the plastic neutral axis measured from the bottom. Okay, so we know the location of this one, plastic neutral axis. From there, okay, go half the depth. So the location, this distance is 210 millimeter, half the depth, that is 105 millimeter. So YT equal to 105 millimeter. But as far as YC is concerned, it is not going to be half the total depth, because the total compressive force will be acting on this area, that is the top flange, and a part of the web. Okay, so as a result, the resultant of these two forces will fall somewhere here. So we need to find out where exactly the resultant force, compressive force, falls in the compression zone from the plastic neutral axis. Once you find out that, that's what YC is. Okay, so YT is calculated and YC is calculated like this. How do we calculate? 180 multiplied by 10, that is the top flange area, multiplied by 35, that is the distance of the centroid of the top flange from the plastic neutral axis, plus 10 multiplied by 30, that is a part of the web of the T section above the plastic neutral axis, multiplied by 30 by 2, divided by the area, half the area you must take. So we got this 32.14 millimeter is the distance of the centroid of the compression area with respect to the plastic neutral axis. So once we have YC and once we have YT, add those two values to get the lever arm. So lever arm is 137.14 millimeter. Then what is the moment of resistance of the section? Moment of resistance of the section is given by Fy multiplied by area of compression or area of tension. It is the same area multiplied by the lever arm. So for this, Fy multiplied by AC is 2100, that is half the area of the total area, multiplied by the lever arm, that is 137.14 millimeter, which we calculated just now. So moment of resistance is given by this, that is 287994 Fy Newton millimeter. So by equating equation 1 and equation 2, so what is equation 1? Md equal to Zp multiplied by Fy. That is Mp equal to Zp divided by Fy. Okay, by equating those two equations, we get Zp equal to 287,994 millimeter cube. That is the plastic section modulus of the area. Okay, that is expressed in millimeter cube. Section modulus unit is always millimeter cube. So we'll go with the second method, which is going to be very, very easy. You are going to like it. So it is not as complicated as this. So in method 2, what we do is, we know the location of the plastic neutral axis. Take the moment of the compression area about the plastic neutral axis and take the moment of the tension area about the plastic neutral axis and add those numbers. That's all. So that's what I have written here. In this method, we can calculate plastic section modulus Zp by adding the moments of the areas in both the compression and tension zones about the plastic neutral axis. Let us do it. So look here. Look at this figure. This is the plastic neutral axis. So moment of this area about this axis, this plastic neutral axis, is given by 180 multiplied by 10. Okay. Multiplied by the centroid of this area and the perpendicular distance from here to here. Okay. Similarly, we have got one more stem area, small tiny area. Take moment of this area about the plastic neutral axis. Next, take the moment of this area. This is the depth is, I think, 105 millimeter multiplied by 10. And the moment is the location of the centroid of this area is at a distance of 105 by 2. Okay. If you look here, I've done it. This is for the top flange. This is for the web portion below the top flange and above the plastic neutral axis. And this is for the web portion below the plastic neutral axis. And this is the distance of the centroid from the plastic neutral axis. Once you take the moment of those areas and simply add, it is not algebraic sum, it is simply arithmetic sum. So we got the value of plastic section modulus equal to 288,000 millimeter cube. Okay, so what is this value? What is this value? 288,000. This is 287,994. So if you add simply a 6 value, that is 6 number to this, it will become 288,000. That is going to be error. So this is A is same as this. Same value you are going to get. So whenever you need to find out the plastic section modulus, you go for method 2, which is the easiest. Don't ever go with method 1. So you'll go wrong and you get confused. Of course, unless you practice it. So go with this. It is going to be easy. Now, I calculated what is plastic section modulus here. Sorry, what is elastic section modulus, which is ZE. And I calculated what is plastic section modulus, that is ZP. Find out what is the shape factor. Shape factor is given by ZP divided by ZE. So therefore, S equal to 1.81. So it is too far from number 1. So T section is not an efficient section when you are designing when you are using that T section as a beam. Okay, look at the shape factor. That is 1.81, too high. Okay, this is the way you are going to find out the shape factor. So sometimes you will get these questions, small questions, now and then in the examination. Okay, carrying some marks. So you should be able to do it. Okay, you simply practice, don't miss. And next, there is a design problem. Okay, this is from one of the examinations, carrying 20 marks. So again, this is a laterally supported beam design, and it's a lengthy one. So I'm going to start this problem from tomorrow. Okay, and till then, so take care. See you tomorrow, guys. So if you get any kind of doubt at any point, please get in touch with me. So unless you put some effort on this, you are not going to understand anything. You cannot blame it on online classes for not understanding. Okay? So you must put your effort. You must put your effort for this subject especially. It is not an easy subject. And also it is a little bit hard to teach online. Okay? So, okay guys, take care and see you tomorrow.